Have you ever found yourself wishing for a life of pure, uninterrupted peace? A life where every day is sunny, every relationship is smooth, and every desire is instantly gratified? It is the most common fantasy of the modern age. We are constantly sold the idea that happiness is the absence of struggle, that the goal of existence is to smooth out the rough edges of reality until everything is flat, safe, and comfortable. We meditate to silence the mind. We take pills to numb the anxiety. We curate our digital lives to show only the highlights. We are terrified of the dark. We treat our own suffering, our confusion, and our internal conflicts as errors in the system, bugs that need to be fixed so we can finally get back to the real business of living. But pause for a moment and consider the terrifying implication of that wish. Imagine, if you will, a reality of pure light. No shadows, no resistance, no friction. In such a world, nothing could ever be defined because definition requires contrast. A white object against a white background is invisible. A sound with no silence is just a deafening, meaningless tone. In a world of absolute, unceasing perfection, consciousness itself would suffocate. It would be a flatline, a coma of bliss. If the modern world is right, and the removal of pain is the ultimate good, then the ultimate destination of humanity is not enlightenment. It is a spiritual lobotomy. What if we have it all wrong? What if the friction, the resistance, and the darkness you feel are not obstacles to the light, but the very fuel that generates it? What if your anxiety, your doubt, and your deepest struggles are not signs that you are broken, but evidence that you are functioning exactly as the cosmos intended? There is a secret history to the nature of reality, a lineage of dangerous ideas that suggests the universe is not a machine designed for your comfort, but a crucible designed for your alchemy. This is not a new idea, but it is one we have forgotten. To find it, we have to leave the sterile safety of modern psychology and travel back to a time when science, magic, and theology were one and the same. We have to go back to the early 17th century, to a small cobblestone town in Germany called Görlitz, to meet a man who didn't just speculate about the nature of God. He saw the terrifying machinery of the divine operating inside his own kitchen. His name was Jakob Böhme. He was not a priest. He was not a scholar. He wasn't a man of letters who spent his days in the ivory towers of academia debating the nuances of Latin scripture. He was a shoemaker, a man of rough hands and humble means, who spent his days bent over leather and lasts, smelling of glue and dust. He was the definition of an ordinary man. But in the year 1600, something happened to this shoemaker that would shatter the foundations of Western spirituality and influence everyone from Isaac Newton to Carl Jung. It is said that one morning, Böhme was sitting in his room when a ray of sunlight struck a pewter dish. The light didn't just reflect, it seemed to explode. In that flash of reflected brilliance, Böhme's ordinary perception of the world collapsed. For a suspended moment of eternity, the shoemaker saw into the heart of all things. He claimed to see the signature rerum, the signature of all things. He saw that the entire universe, from the spinning stars to the blades of grass, was driven by a single, terrifying and beautiful force. He didn't see a benevolent grandfather figure sitting on a cloud. He saw a cosmic fire. He saw that God was not a static being of pure peace, but a dynamic, agonizing process of self-creation. He saw that reality is born from a violent, erotic tension between opposing forces. Böhme wrote down what he saw, and his neighbors called him mad. The church called him a heretic. They ran him out of town, but he couldn't stop writing, because he had realized something that scared the establishment to its core, the realization that the darkness is not the enemy of the light, but its mother. Today, we are going to retrace the steps of the shoemaker who saw eternity. We are going to open the forbidden book of his cosmology, not as an exercise in history, but as an act of psychological surgery. We are going to explore the alchemy of pain. We are going to look at why your life feels like a battlefield, and we are going to discover that this battle is not a punishment. It is a birthing process. To understand this, we must first descend. We must go back before the beginning, before the Big Bang, before the Bible, before the concept of something. We have to wrap our minds around Böhme's most radical concept, the Ungrund. In German, Grund means ground or foundation. Ungrund is the unground, the abyss, the bottomless. Böhme asked a question that most theologians were too afraid to ask. What was God doing before he created the world? If God is everything, where did the world come from? Did he make it out of nothing? And if so, how can something come from nothing? Böhme's answer is chillingly abstract and strangely modern. He suggests that before there was a creator, there was only the ungrund. Imagine a silence so deep it has no bottom, a darkness so vast it has no edges. It is not empty in the sense of a vacuum. It is empty like a dreamless sleep. It is pure potential. It is the freedom of nothingness. In this state there is no pain because there is no one to feel pain. There is no joy because there is no one to feel joy. There is only a vast, indifferent, eternal silence. This sounds peaceful, doesn't it? It sounds like the nirvana that so many spiritual seekers claim to want. But Böhme says no. He says that deep within this infinite nothingness, there arose a terrible problem. The nothingness wanted to know itself. Think about that. If you are everything, and there is nothing outside of you, no mirror, no other person, no object, you cannot know who you are. You are an eye that can see everything but itself. You are invisible to yourself. The ungrund, this abyss of freedom, fell into a state of cosmic longing. It hungered for manifestation. It hungered for a mirror. And this is where the trouble begins. This is where the story of the universe shifts from a peaceful nap to a violent awakening. To know itself, the unity had to break itself. To see its own face, the infinite had to fracture into the finite. Böhme describes this not as a decision made by a man on a throne, but as a contraction. A desire arose in the dark, a desire to be something. But here is the catch, and it is the catch that rules your life to this day. You cannot have something without defining it against nothing. You cannot have light without darkness. You cannot have self without other. So the first movement of creation was not let there be light. According to Böhme, the first movement was the contraction of darkness. The abyss turned in on itself, squeezing itself, densifying itself into a hard, dark kernel of ego. Böhme calls this the first principle. It is the principle of fire, of wrath, of self-centered gravity. It is the no that allows the yes to exist. This is difficult to grasp, so let's use a metaphor that Böhme might have appreciated if he lived in our time. Think of a violin string. As it lies on the table, it is relaxed. It is at peace. It is in a state of ungrund, but it makes no sound. It has no music. To create music, you must subject that string to terrible tension. You must stretch it until it is tight, until it is almost screaming with potential energy. You have to introduce stress. Only then, when the bow strikes it, when friction is applied, does the music sing out. The music is the consciousness. The tension is the necessary condition for its existence. We, in our modern fragility, want the music without the tension. We want the revelation without the agony of the question. We look at the darkness in the world, the wars, the suffering, the cruelty, and we look at the darkness in ourselves, the jealousy, the rage, the depression, and we say, this is wrong. This shouldn't be here. If God were good, he would take this away. Böhme looks at us from across 4 centuries and shakes his head. He tells us that we are missing the point entirely. The darkness is not an accident. The darkness is the engine. The wrath of God, that burning, consuming fire of existence, is the root of the love of God. You cannot have the warmth of the light without the consuming combustion of the fire. They are the same force, experienced at different frequencies. This is the great uncomfortable premise of our journey today. We are going to explore the idea that your consciousness, that feeling of I am, is actually a spark generated by the friction between 2 gigantic cosmic plates. The dark, contracting force of your animal survival and the expanding, luminous force of your divine potential. You are not a being of peace who has fallen into a world of conflict. You are the conflict itself, and that conflict is the only thing that makes you real. So if you are feeling squeezed by life right now, if you feel like the walls are closing in and the pressure is becoming unbearable, take a deep breath. You are not dying. You are being tuned. The tension you feel is the tuning of the instrument. The question is not how to cut the string to relieve the tension. The question is, how do we learn to play the music? To answer this, we must dive into the specific mechanics of this soul alchemy. Böhme didn't just leave us with a philosophy of tension. He left us a map of how the light is born from the dark. He described a process of 7 spirits, or 7 qualities, that evolve from the dark abyss into the kingdom of joy. For our purposes, we will distill these into 3 practical psychological laws. These are the laws of the alchemical mirror. Understanding them is the difference between being crushed by the weight of the world and being polished by it. Let us step out of the abyss and into the laboratory of your own mind. Now that we have stared into the abyss, and understood that the universe begins not with a peaceful sigh, but with a desperate, contracting hunger to be real. We must bring this cosmic machinery down to earth. It is one thing to discuss the birth of God in the void of prehistory. It is another thing entirely to face the alarm clock on a Monday morning, the grief of a lost relationship, or the gnawing anxiety of an uncertain future. If Böhme's vision is true, if the macrocosm is mirrored in the microcosm, then the same violent laws that birthed the stars are currently operating inside your nervous system. You are not just observing the universe, you are the universe behaving specifically. This brings us to the practical heart of our investigation. How do we navigate a reality built on conflict? Most spiritual traditions offer us a way out. They offer us an escape hatch. They say, the world is an illusion, leave it behind, or desire is the root of suffering, kill it. But Böhme, the humble shoemaker, offers a different path. He doesn't offer an escape, he offers an alchemical transmutation. He suggests that the lead of your suffering is the only material from which the gold of your enlightenment can be made. You cannot reject the darkness, because the darkness is the battery. To navigate this, we must learn the 3 laws of friction. These are not moral commandments. They are not rules telling you how to be a good person. They are mechanics. They are the physics of the soul. If you try to defy gravity, you fall. If you try to defy these laws, you suffer neurosis, depression, and a sense of meaningless fragmentation. But if you align with them, you turn the friction of life into the fire of presence. The first law is perhaps the most counterintuitive for our modern minds. We call it the law of the dark root, or the principle of necessary contraction. In Böhme's strange alchemical language, he associated this with the element of salt. Not table salt, but the universal principle of binding, hardening, and gripping. It is the force that pulls things together into a solid mass. Look at a tree. We love the leaves. We love the flowers and the fruit that dance in the wind and the sunlight. We write poems about the branches reaching for the heavens, but the tree is not just the branches. The height of the tree is strictly determined by the depth of its roots. And where do the roots live? They live in the dark. They live in the cold, compressed, rocky soil. They live in the domain of salt. If a tree decided that it was too spiritual for the dirt, if it decided it only wanted to exist in the light, it would uproot itself. And in that moment of freedom, it would die. It would lose its source of water and stability. The darkness of the soil is what holds the tree in place so that the light can work upon it. In your own psyche, this salt, this dark root, is your ego. It is your survival instinct. It is your capacity for anger, for selfishness, for boundary setting. It is the part of you that says, I am me, and I am not you. Modern spirituality often tells us to kill the ego. We are told that the ego is the enemy, a mistake, a demon to be exorcised. Böhme would argue that this is a catastrophe. If you destroy the root, you cannot grow the fruit. The law of the dark root states that you must accept, honor, and even integrate the dense, heavy, negative parts of your nature. This is what Carl Jung, centuries later, would call the integration of the shadow. Think of the nice guy or the people pleaser. This is a person who has tried to cut off their dark root. They are incapable of anger. They are incapable of selfishness. They are terrified of conflict. Are they holy? No. They are harmless, and often they are deeply resentful and neurotic. They have no salt. They have no substance. Because they cannot say no, their yes means nothing. They have no gravity. Böhme teaches us that God himself has a dark root. He calls it the wrath of God. But here is the secret. The wrath is not evil. The wrath is simply power in a state of contraction. It is the nuclear fuel before it is released as light. When you feel anger, when you feel deep sadness, when you feel a heavy, dense depression, you are not experiencing a bad emotion. You are experiencing raw, unrefined energy. The alchemist does not throw the lead away. The alchemist heats it up. This leads us directly to the second law, which explains how we do the heating. This is the law of sacred friction, or the wheel of anguish. Böhme used a fascinating German wordplay here that is lost in translation, but we will recover it. The German word for torment or agony is Qual, but Qual is also the root of the word Qualität, or quality. Think about that for a second. Torment is the source of quality. A thing has no specific quality, no definition, until it has gone through the Qual, the friction of coming into being. Böhme describes the universe as a wheel of nature that is spinning in anxiety. It is the friction of the distinct elements rubbing against each other. In our lives, we experience this as desire, or as Böhme calls it, the sulfur. Sulfur is the active, burning principle. It is the drive that says, I want, I need, I must change this. We are taught that peace means the end of desire. But Böhme saw desire as the fiat, the let there be of creation. The anxiety you feel about your life, the dissatisfaction with your current state, the hunger for something more. This is not a symptom of sickness. This is the friction of the wheel turning. This is the qual generating your quality. Imagine a gym. If you walk in and lift a weight that is light and easy, a weight that offers no resistance, what happens? Nothing. Your muscles do not grow. There is no transformation. For the muscle to change, for it to become stronger and more defined, it must encounter resistance that is almost too much to bear. It must reach failure. That burning sensation in the muscle fiber is the biological equivalent of Böhme's qual. It is the torment that precedes the growth. Now apply this to your soul. Why do you face obstacles? Why does the project fail? Why does the lover leave? Why does the money run out? It is not because the universe hates you. It is because the universe is trying to give you quality. It is trying to define you. Without the resistance of the marble, the sculptor cannot carve the statue. The resistance is the medium. The law of sacred friction commands us to stop running from the heat. When the anxiety rises, when the sulfur starts to burn in your blood, do not reach immediately for the distraction. Do not scroll through your phone to numb it. Do not drink it away. Sit with it. Let it burn. That burning is the fire of transformation. Ask yourself, what new shape is this fire trying to forge me into? This is the difference between meaningless suffering and sacrificial suffering. Meaningless suffering is when you run from the pain and it chases you. Sacrificial suffering is when you turn and face the fire and say, burn away everything that is not real. And when you do that, when you stand in the fire of the dark root and the friction, something miraculous happens. The flash occurs. This brings us to the third law, the law of the broken mirror or the flash of meaning. Böhme called this the lightning flash. It is the moment where the friction becomes so intense that it suddenly ignites into light. The wrath flips over and becomes love. It is important to understand that for Böhme, wrath and love are not two different things. They are the same energy moving in different directions. Wrath is energy contracting, pulling in, separating. Love is energy expanding, giving out, uniting. It is like a heart. The heart must contract, systole, before it can expand, diastole. If it only expanded, you would die. If it only contracted, you would die. Life is the rhythm between the two. The law of the broken mirror teaches us that the world around us is the feedback mechanism for this rhythm. We are constantly projecting our own internal state onto the screen of reality. When we are stuck in the dark root, when we are in the contraction of the ego, we experience the world as hostile. We see enemies everywhere. We see scarcity. We see people as objects to be used or obstacles to be removed. We think the world is broken, but the world is not broken. The mirror is just reflecting a broken face. The flash comes when we realize that the enemy is not out there. The enemy is the contraction in here. There is a profound psychological practice hidden in this. Next time you feel a strong negative reaction to someone, perhaps a politician, a celebrity, or an annoying family member, pause. Catch the sulfur rising, catch the heat. Instead of throwing that heat at them in the form of an insult or a judgment, turn the mirror around. Ask, what part of me does this person represent? What part of my own dark root am I repressing, that I can only see it when it is projected onto them? This is terrifying work. It is much easier to believe that you are good and they are bad. It is much easier to be a victim of the world than a co-creator of it, but the victim is powerless. The victim is stuck in the qual without ever getting the quality. The alchemist, the mystery hunter of the soul, takes responsibility for the whole picture. They realize that every person they meet is a messenger from the deep structure of their own consciousness, sent to reveal a blind spot. When you begin to live this way, the torment begins to change. It doesn't necessarily go away. Life is still difficult, bodies still get sick, hearts still break, but the nature of the suffering changes. It ceases to be a tragedy and becomes a drama, a divine drama. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, how is God trying to know himself through this specific experience? You begin to see that your life is not a random series of accidents. It is a laboratory. You are the scientist, and you are the experiment. The depression, the joy, the boredom, the terror, these are just chemicals bubbling in the flask. Böhme tells us that the goal is not to break the flask, but to understand the reaction. But where does this reaction lead? If we integrate the dark root, and we endure the friction, and we clean the mirror, what is left? What is the final product of this great work? Böhme's answer to this is the most radical part of his vision. It is the realization that shifts the center of gravity from the heavens down into the center of your own chest. It is the realization that God is not waiting for you at the finish line. God is the one running the race, wearing your shoes. This brings us to the terrifying and beautiful climax of Jakob Böhme's vision. It is a secret that has been whispered by mystics of every tradition, from the Sufis in the desert to the Zen masters in the mountains. But Böhme stripped it of its poetry and laid it bare as a mechanical fact. The secret is this: you are not a stranger in this universe. You are not a cosmic accident, a biological fluke, or a sinner begging for entry into a distant heaven. You are the organ of perception for the absolute. Think about the implications of the Ungrund, that initial silent abyss we started with. If the abyss is truly infinite, it has no boundaries. If it has no boundaries, it has no definition. It is everything and nothing at once. To know itself, it needs a limit. It needs a finite point of view. It needs a specific location in space and time with specific memories, specific pains, and specific eyes. It needs you. This turns the traditional religious pyramid upside down. We are used to thinking of God as the master and humanity as the servant. But in Böhme's alchemy, the relationship is symbiotic. It is a loop. The infinite provides the raw power, the will, and the life force. But the finite, that's us, provides the lens. Without us, God is unconscious, pure potential. Through us, God becomes self-aware. Böhme went so far as to suggest that the birth of God is happening right now, inside of you. Every time you struggle with a difficult decision, every time you choose kindness over resentment, every time you take the raw salt of your suffering and transmute it into wisdom, you are not just improving your own little life. You are resolving a cosmic tension. You are doing the work that the universe cannot do for itself. The universe can burn stars and spin galaxies, but it cannot cry, it cannot forgive, and it cannot understand the nuance of a broken heart. Only a human soul can do that. This reimagines the figure of Christ in Böhme's work, not merely as a historical man who lived 2,000 years ago, but as a universal principle, the cosmic Christ. This is the state of consciousness where the dark root and the light spirit are finally married. It is the point of balance where the friction stops being destructive and becomes creative. To embody this state is not to walk on water or perform magic tricks. It is to hold the tension of opposites within yourself without breaking apart. It is to be fully grounded in the mud of the earth, the dark world, while simultaneously fully open to the light of the spirit, the light world, and to say yes to both. This is the third principle that Böhme spoke of, the kingdom of joy. But notice that the joy does not come from removing the darkness. It comes from mastering it. The fire of wrath is still there, but it has been transformed into the fire of love. The energy that could have destroyed you now warms you. This is the definition of true spiritual power. It is not the absence of shadows, it is the ability to illuminate them. So, where does this leave us? It leaves us with a tremendous, almost crushing responsibility. If Böhme is right, your life is not your own private affair. Your depression, your anxiety, your triumphs, and your insights are matters of cosmic import. You are the laboratory where the universe is trying to solve its own riddle. If you run from the work, if you numb yourself to the friction, you are not just failing yourself, you are delaying the self-knowledge of God. You are leaving a part of the map blank. But if you engage with the work, if you accept the alchemy of your own existence, you gain a dignity that no job title or bank account can ever give you. You realize that you are the eyes through which the abyss sees its own beauty. You are the hands through which the silence touches the world. As we close the book on the shoemaker from Görlitz, we are left not with a final answer, but with a new way of seeing the problem. We stop looking for a life of easy peace and start accepting the life of sacred friction. We stop trying to escape the darkness and start learning how to root ourselves in it so we can reach higher toward the light. And perhaps in the quiet moments of your own life, when the wheel of anguish is turning and the pressure feels like it might break you, you can remember the pewter dish in the shoemaker's kitchen. You can remember that the flash of revelation only comes when the light hits the hard, resistant surface of the metal. You are the metal. The life is the light. The friction is the heat. The only question that remains is, are you willing to stay in the fire long enough to become gold? That is our hunt for today, a journey into the dense, dark, and luminous mind of a 17th century mystic, blending documented philosophy with the daring what-ifs of modern consciousness. If this dive into the alchemy of the soul resonated with you, consider subscribing so we can continue to map the labyrinth together. But before you go, ask yourself this. If your struggles are the universe's way of waking itself up, what is it trying to realize through you right now?